Hey, what's up guys? My name is Moda and welcome back to the Mining Stacker YouTube channel. Today's video, we have yet another Alephium ASIC coming from GoldShell yet again. This is now the fourth box miner Alephium ASIC from GoldShell. Okay, this is going to be a quick little review or talk about the ALBox 2 Pro. Not the Plus. The Plus is one that was just announced also. The Pro has not been officially announced from GoldShell, but every reseller has had it listed. We'll talk about the specs. We'll look at profitability. We'll compare it to all the existing models to see how it stacks up and if this thing is going to be worth considering. Okay, so if that sounds good, guys, stay tuned. Let's get to this thing. So we're going to be talking about the ALBox 2 Pro, not the Plus. Okay, the Plus is the unit that a bunch of videos just came out today actually about it. And it's the unit with the integrated PSU. Okay, so the Pro model is going to be very similar to like the Casper Pro model, where in this case, it's essentially going to be this guy, the 2 Plus model, without the integrated PSU. Okay, so they have not officially announced it yet, but a lot of the resellers for well over a week have had this thing listed. For whatever reason, they're kind of delaying it. I think it's because they want to sell some of these first before kind of cannibalizing themselves yet again and releasing yet another SKU, right? Because again, like we mentioned, this is now the fourth box model, fifth overall, including the larger Echo series. Okay. So the ALBox 2 Plus, 1 terahash, 480 watts. The rumored specs of this guy, which again, it's been up for a week. All the vendors have listed the same specs, so I feel fairly confident with what it's going to be. 950 gigahash at 460 watts, right? So just immediately eyeballing practically the same as the ALBox 2 Plus. Okay, again, the difference being like the Casper Pro model, you can see 3 6-pins, which is probably going to be the same thing here because of the wattage, and just slightly less power. Okay, so also at this point we don't have the official price because it's hard to compare, but this is kind of the expectation that it's going to be cheaper than the Plus model because it does not have the integrated PSU. So it's kind of just going to be a different flavor of it. For me personally, if I were in the market, this guy would be more appealing just because I'm not a fan of the integrated PSU. To some, this is going to be more appealing, right? Because at this point, you can open it, plug it in, and away you go. For me, I like to think down the road. What happens when that PSU fails is I'm pretty sure, considering GoldShell's track record with their PSUs that they have supplied as far as like the bricks and such, that they haven't been the best, right? I would feel more confident in using one of my own, a platinum rated server PSU, which I have plenty of, or a gold or platinum rated ATX PSU, which again are easily available. A lot of us have many of them, and even if you don't, it's just the convenience of being able to have an easily replaceable power supply. At this point, if the power supply does fail here, not going to be the funnest thing in the world, paying probably an exaggerated price to get it directly from GoldShell. I'm sure we're going to be able to find a way to rig it so we can put our own in there if it does fail. Obviously save money, but at that point, I would much rather just supply my own power supply, right? So if there's going to be a savings of about $100, I would much rather go this route personally, right? Kind of to each their own. But again, essentially the same thing, right? At this point, it's probably something that they were going to try to push and extend later out, but they were kind of forced to release all these models, I think, way faster than they had anticipated just because of the competition, right? Which we did see Dragon Ball release them, but those to me are already irrelevant. They've just debuted literally a few days ago. They've already received 2 price reductions and expect it to continue just because they're not as good as the competition, right? And at this point, they're not as good as the GoldShells, and then the GoldShells aren't as good as the Ice Rivers. Okay, so the direct competitor here is the AL0. The AL0, again, easy math. 2 of these guys, $1,600. Same price point, less hash rate here though. You would only get 800 gigahash versus the 1 terahash with the other guy, but at twice the efficiency with the Ice River unit. Okay, so percentage wise and specs wise, when we say it like that, it's twice as efficient. Yes, it's a big deal, but it depends on your scale, right? If your plan is to only get one of these things anyway, is 100 watts really the biggest deal in the world? Or in this case, 2 of these things, 200 watts? Probably not, right? So the price would have to make sense. But as a direct comparison, in my opinion, the GoldShell unit should be cheaper than the Ice River unit. Because for me, just because the efficiency was just, it really depends on how important that is to you, right? Like if you're a person who's limited to being able to mine indoors, you only have a few watts to spare in a bedroom, that's just going to be a huge priority for you, right? If you're not concerned with that, obviously not going to be that big of a deal. It just depends on your own individual unit. But at the end of the day, if the price is fairly similar, I would just much rather get the more efficient unit, right? Or in the case like with me, if you're getting multiples of these, that's when it does get exaggerated, right? Because if you're getting 4 ALZOs, for example, it's 400 watts here versus the equivalent hash, you're going to be at 800 watts, right? Then at that point, it starts getting more significant. But again, it just depends on the extent of things. So is the GoldShell priced horribly? Not the worst price in the world, right? Especially if you're looking for convenience, that you don't have to buy external fans, you don't have to worry about cooling, you don't have to worry about power supply. Not the worst price, right? So for newbies, which is realistically who they're targeting, right? It's not the worst thing. Yes, it's less efficient, but again, it's not the worst thing in the world. Okay, so for me personally though, again, just like I've shown, I'd rather go the Ice River route. Realistically, like we mentioned though, it should just be cheaper, right? So the AO Box 2 Plus, realistically, $1,400. The other one maybe $1,300. But it's just hard to say just because of where the market's at, right? So they're gonna have to wait for a reason to see what happens here. But as we've seen with the Box 2 Plus, because they just did reduce the price today, it's been on a constant downtrend, right? Literally just trickling down, right? Since the resellers have listed it, $50, $100, $100, $100, which is what we saw with the GoldShell, the Caspa Pro model also. Okay, that thing literally trickled down for like 2 months, all the way down to the price where it's at. Is that going to happen here also? Over time, yes, especially if something comes in and changes the pricing structure, which to me is just the biggest risk here, right? If you're early and you're getting first batch, you want to be a month ahead of everything, then go for it, which was like my case. But I think what we're kind of waiting for is the Icy Boys to release their bigger unit and potentially change the pricing of everything. Okay, will they, won't they? We don't know, it's all speculation, but to me it just seems too likely that they're going to release a bigger unit that's going to change the pricing scheme, that it's going to be more aggressively priced than the existing AL1, which is realistically what everything is kind of priced off of. Okay, like even this guy, it does scale in price-wise, efficiency-wise to that AL1. So if they release a direct competitor to that AL1 that is priced pretty significantly more aggressively, it may trickle down all the way down to these guys. Okay, it may not. I think it's going to be very likely if they release a mid-tier. If they only release a high-end unit, let's say it's something that's a direct competitor to the Bitmain unit, and instead of being 30 plus K, it's down to like 20, 22K. Obviously, it should be reflected in this guy also, but it may not, because again, the spectrum is just so big, right? Not too many people are going to be buying that high-end Alephium unit, and it makes more sense, obviously, to get a bigger discount buying that bulk unit versus buying one of these guys. Okay, so if that happens, will there be a price reduction here? Potentially, right? If things stay the same, if things continue downwards, then it may happen, right? So it kind of just depends on your beliefs. What do you think is going to happen with the market? Do you think we're going to pump in the next month or two? Do you think we're going to continue downwards? We don't know, because we know that as soon as we see a price increase, that's when miraculously everybody wants these things, right? So we saw something similar happen with like the RX0, for example. It came out, and as soon as it was announced, or actually prior to it, right before, it did go up a little bit more after the Ice River announcement, the price went up, and then what happened, right? People wanted these things. Initially, it was because of the price reduction. It was not price reduction, but because the price was so low, it was $399. But even with the elevated prices, it still did even sell out, right? It went up to, $499, $520, $550, and then now $600 from not just this reseller, every reseller, because again, it just becomes a supply and demand kind of thing until it sells out. Okay, so if things pump, if things do go up, what do you think is going to happen here also? Okay, something similar. And again, we're at the point now in the market where this can happen like that, right? 1 minute it's making 25 cents, and the next minute it's making $5. Okay, it literally can happen that fast. You guys following on X or Twitter, we saw it this morning with CKB. Had a crazy, literally in a 10-minute span, it did a 50% increase, right? Which drastically changed the revenue, right? Went from barely break even to making $8-9 a day. Okay, and it can literally happen like that. And then if that sustains or continues to go up, what do you think happens, right? The hardware sells out. Whatever stock is available, the price just goes upward, and that's could be a potential time to sell, right? So it's different strategies. It depends on what you think is going to happen. For me personally, I do see something similar happening with the lithium between now and the next 6 months. Will it, won't it? We don't know. This is where the strategy comes into play and what you're planning to do with these units. Okay, so just kind of keep in mind, that's kind of where my bet is that sometime between now and when the next model comes out, things may pump, things may not, or things may get cut down drastically. Maybe Ice River, with their aggressive pricing, decides the next batch, they think things are going to be bearish, and they go down to $400, right? Anything can happen, right? That's the risk to reward. Some things play out, some things don't. Got to be in it to win it, got to risk it for the biscuit, however you want to word it. But that's kind of the name of the game. So like me, I like to dip my toes all over the place into higher confidence plays. Okay, so like for me, I'm bullish on Alephium. So worst case scenario, I just sit on this guy and stack Alephium profitably for probably the next 12 plus months. Okay, to me that's the worst case scenario, and as a worst case scenario, that still sounds pretty damn good. Okay, so again, some work out massively, like with the K7 has been extremely successful, others not so much, but realistically, the name of the game for me is still or not even the name of the game, the expectation is still, we're still in this boring time, right? I'm not really expecting this until next year with the majority of my ASICs, the majority of my hardware. Some of them, it does happen early. In the case of CKB, for example, it happened extremely early, okay? But for me, it's still accumulation time. While hardware is available, it's not sold out, it's at a decent price, I'm in, right? So kind of to each their own, different strategies, but whether it's mining, buying, whatever, this is the time to position yourselves, guys. This is the time to really position yourself where you want to be at, because again, this price action, anything can happen these next 2 to 3 plus months, right? A lot of stuff going on. Even as soon as next week, man, we have these Fed rate cuts potentially, as well as a bunch of just other things, right? A lot of stuff going on. Just position yourself, guys, right? So whether it's these little box miners, these little AL0s, a big boy ASIC, buying the coin, whatever it is, get in the game. But as far as this AL Box 2 Pro goes, it's essentially the same thing as the others, same chips, no difference, just packaged differently, right? So overall, to me, still overpriced, needs to be cheaper than the more efficient AL0. And then maybe we'd consider, but I would be waiting for the Icy Boys and whatever their mid to high-end unit announcement comes, because that may change the pricing structure. Then at that point, if I would be jumping in, then I would make my move, right? So to each their own there. Let me know in the comments, guys, what do you guys think, though? Are you guys interested in any of these box miners? The way the pricing goes, it seems like they're going to keep going down at like $1,000, or like if things continue bearish, definitely gets more appealing. Just depends on what happens, all right? But let me know in the comments, guys, what do you guys think? If you guys are buying any things, have you guys bought any of these things? How are they doing? How are they holding up? Let us know in the comments, guys. Please comment, like, and subscribe, guys. Thank you for watching. I really do appreciate it, and I am out.